Here is Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
All right. Welcome to the Gridiron, baby. If you can give this video a thumbs up or maybe share this video, that would be absolutely freaking phenomenal. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you. If not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. What do you got to lose? It's totally free of charge. But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you want to help support my channel out, description box below, very top link takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. Each one has their own little perks to them. So once again, if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. I thank you in advance. Thank you. And then finally, just underneath that, there's another link. Takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. We have over 9,700 members in the group. It is doing simply marvelous, might I add. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing and if I got internet access, I'm putting stuff in this group darn near 365. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You will not be dissatisfied. I promise. All right. Well, I said they got the OTAs, right? OTA number 9 was today. A lot of touchdown passes, right? A lot of stuff going on. Of course, it's thankfully we're not hearing the I word, injuries, right? Malik Neighbors hasn't done anything, but they're bringing him along slowly. They just bubble wrap that guy. We'll see you week 1 of the NFL. Yeah, I mean, just whatever it takes with his toes, whatever. He's had this problem since college, so. Whatever it takes, right? Don't want to irritate the guy's toes. So, but obviously there's no contact or anything like that. They're doing a lot of situational stuff. Just from what I'm hearing from like Big Blue Kickoff Live because they cover, all the Giants because they work for the Giants, right? So they said, all the quarterbacks are getting in throws, they're all throwing touchdown passes, or, some of the defense is getting off, looking good. I know they said, the pass rush looks good, but once again, they look good. But once again, there's no contact. So it's, there's the final OTA is tomorrow. Then next week, the 17th, the 18th, and 19th is veteran mini camp, right? And then they're poof, everybody's gone, right? They get it's about 5 weeks off, I believe, and it is, and everybody comes back, toward the end of July, and then we're off and running, guys. Off and running on another football season. Love it, right? Maybe this year we can have something to cheer about, huh? Wouldn't it be nice? So there's one more OTA, right? But so all kinds of stuff here to talk about. I see all different kinds of articles. I always, like to thank, not that anybody's listening to me or anything like that, but all these people that write these articles, they do, some of them it's a little, it seems like some of the articles they write are just basically to get morons like me to read it, right? But some of them do a very, very good job. Very, very good job. In depth and detailed and all that. And gives people like morons like me something to talk about. But something educated to talk about, right? So some of these guys do a very, very good job at writing their articles. You can tell they spent a decent amount of time with these articles. So always a, big 2 thumbs up to a lot of these guys who write these articles. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can always come up with stuff to talk about, but I would maybe come up with 1 or 2 things or something like that to talk about or whatever. But when you go online, you start searching all these articles, everything, you find a lot of nice stuff just to talk. A lot of stuff that these people have come up with that, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that. And then you scroll a little more. Wow, that's a good article. Wow, I didn't think of that. You know what I mean? So. That's why it's so great. I'm glad it's a big. It's with every team, right? Every team's got a huge community. The Cowboys, every team, So 2 thumbs up to all these people who write these articles. They do a fantastic job. Now, this one here, right? I caught my eye. I'm like, yeah. I mean, it couldn't get much harder, but said the Giants' schedule get easy. Yeah. Well, yeah, no. It's basically in this article, what they're talking about here is there's 3 teams that are kind of like, well, I don't want to say imploding, but 2 of these 3 teams didn't even make the playoffs last year, right? Although one of the teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, we're kind of thinking maybe they might make the playoffs this year. But if you start reading this article, it's like, well, maybe they may not be so good after all. So that there's like 3 these last year these three teams or actually maybe this thing, they're all like on different levels, right? One of the teams is like, one of these teams should have been in the NFC Championship game, right? Except they had no defense, right? They were hiring people from Chuck E. Cheese to come out onto the field to play defense at the end of the season. I mean, if their team actually had their team was as lucky as the Eagles. The Eagles were good. The Eagles are a great team, but the Eagles were also lucky that they really had nobody injured. This team had no luck with their defense. The defense was intact. Good chance the NFC Championship game might have been played in their home park. The second team that this talks about was very disappointing that they didn't make the playoffs last year. And you kind of thought that they would certainly rebound this year until you start maybe reading this article. And then the last team on this out of this article I'm going to start reading about is, they really weren't going to be probably very good. And as this offseason is unfolded, you can see that they may not be very good at all this year. So, So let me start reading this here. All right. So the Giants' brutal 2025. This is, who is this? G-Men HQ? Yeah. Matt Sidney wrote this article. Very nice job. Says the Giants' brutal 2025 schedule just got a gift from 3 imploding teams. Now, the one team, I'm not so sure if they're imploding. I think they're going to be, I'm not saying they're going to be lock, stock, and barrel guaranteed to go to the NFC Championship game or something like that, but they should be okay. And they might take a step back from maybe what they did last year because they're in a tough division, very tough division. But, there's a chance that they might make the playoffs. But anyway, so when the 2025 NFL season came out, the Giants fans did what most fans of 3 and 4 teams would do, sigh, then immediately brace for another rough year. Based on the 2024 records, New York unfairly drew the league's toughest slate. 3 of their first 4 games are against playoff teams, and 9 matchups overall come against clubs that made the postseason. No need to be a numbers expert to know this kind of math stinks. Yep. But schedules don't always age the way they're forecasted in the offseason. Now, the one thing is, and actually, a lot of it, right, is Bob Papa talks about this quite a bit. He says sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Like, what happened with the Eagles last year, right? The last game of the season, the Eagles put a lot of their backups in. Of course, the Giants still didn't win the football game, but, right? When did you play the Eagles, right? We played in Philadelphia, right? I mean, that's just, I think Jesus Christ was walking the earth the last time the Giants won in Philly. I mean, it's been so freaking long. But they gave the Giants a chance, right? I mean, if the Giants were, weren't totally decimated, if they actually had their starting offensive line in there that they had earlier on, if they didn't have as many injuries and all that, they would have had a better chance of winning a football game. So it's not so much when. I mean, because just think if the Giants played the final game of the season against the Eagles, right, in Philadelphia. I don't know what moron wrote this schedule up, but I mean, it's like, let's put the best team in the division against the worst team in Philly, right? I mean, was it supposed to be a good game? I mean, but just think, If the Eagles needed that game, right, maybe for to try to get the number one playoff spot or something like that, if they needed that game and it was all hands on deck and they actually had Saquon Barkley in there, he probably would have had about 1,300 yards rushing against the Giants. But if it was all hands on deck for the Eagles, do you think the Giants would have had any prayer at all? Absolutely freaking not. But the Eagles put a bunch of the backups in there, and the Giants had some chance, right? I mean, sometimes it's not who you play; it's when you play them. Does the team's quarterback get injured? Right, star quarterback get injured. Does this happen? It's matchups. A lot of them are matchups, right? But schedules don't always age the way they're forecasted in the offseason. Jordan Dajani, hope I said his name right, of CBS Sports recently outlined the 5 teams he believes had the worst offseason in the NFL. And the Giants will face 3 of them in 2025. Interesting. It doesn't mean the road is easy. No, absolutely not. But it might not be the insurmountable climb it once felt like. Well, for a Giants team desperately searching for any edge in the season, where Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are fighting for their futures, even a few cracks in the armor of would-be contenders could make all the difference. Giants' daunting 2025 schedule could be softer than expected. Now, that's a little softer, maybe a little. We're not talking light years there. Right? We're talking maybe a little. Right? Among those 5 teams, Dajani called out the San Francisco 49ers, the Detroit Lions, and the New Orleans Saints for what he described as, to put it in casual terms, absolutely miserable off seasons. On the 49ers, he wrote, no team lost more talent. As safety Hufanga, right? Linebacker Greenlaw, offensive guard Aaron Banks, cornerback Travarius Ward, defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, offensive tackle Jalen Moore, pass rusher Leonard Floyd, defensive tackle Malik Collins, and running back Elijah Mitchell are now playing for new franchises. He added the team's $264 million free agent spending deficit was the largest in NFL history. So I guess they lost $350 million worth of players or something or whatever, and they only spent like 50 or 60 or 70 million, right? So, wow. They lost a lot of talent. A lot of that also has to do with that. They signed Purdy. Now that was the one thing that, they were doing, they were, rolling the dice with Purdy, right? He was only making about $50 a game, right, over the past few years. Right, you're the last pick in the draft. You're making minimum wage for 4 or 5 years, so they're eating good. Right now, all of a sudden, you got to pay your quarterback, and they go bye. And there goes quite a few players on your team. Now you could do what the Eagles do, right? And you could just keep bringing in talent because there's no salary cap in Philadelphia. There's 31 teams with a salary cap. Then there's the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no salary cap there. What they do is they bring guys in, and they just add void years to the end of the contracts. So they keep bringing guys in because if they were actually paying all their players, let me get this out of here, right? If they were actually paying Jalen Hurts his $55 million a year, they were paying Brown his $25 million a year, whatever. They were paying, Darius Slay. He's got void years on his contract. If they were paying Devontae Smith, he's got void years on the end of his contract. If they were paying Saquon Barkley his $15 million, whatever, because he's got void years on the end of his contract, right? Their right tackle, you got void years on the end of his contract, right? And so they're actually paying their players, right, like what they're supposed to be paying them. If the Jalen Hurts is making $50 to $55 million, if they were actually paying him his 50 to 55 million last year. They couldn't afford Saquon Barkley, but they're just pushing all the money. They owe Jalen Hurts about $100 million. I think it's in 2028. I think it is. So, so all their chips are in the middle of the table right now because they just avoid the Philadelphia void years. Basically, that's what it is. But the San Francisco, they had all that talent because they had a real cheap quarterback. Once you pay the quarterback, bye goes a lot of the talent. That's what the Giants are going to try to, hopefully. Oh, I crossed him. Yeah. Try to do with Jackson Dart, right? It takes him a year, say 2 years or so. Hopefully he's the man. Hopefully he's the new sheriff in town, right? And then maybe the final 3 seasons, year 3, year 4, and if they pick up this 5th-year option, year 5. So hopefully they have a few years they can start building around him, right? Let's not forget. This is really early, but 2027, the Giants are supposed to have a lot of money to spend. A lot of money to spend. Now, if Winston's gone, if Wilson's gone, if Dart is their only quarterback and they're paying them like $4.5 million a year, you can build a nice team, right, around him. All right. Let's see. Oh, there you go. He had a $264 million free agent spending deficit, was the largest in NFL history, and raised questions about whether Brock Purdy can keep things afloat without the big 5 around him. So, there's a lot more pressure on Brock Purdy. Things all look fine and fancy, right? Yeah, when Brock Williams has Williams as his left tackle, and he's got all these great weapons to throw to, McCaffrey in the backfield. Things are all looking fine and fancy then, but when the talent's not there, how's Purdy going to look? Could be a little bit different. Shanahan's a great coach, so if he can get something out of this gang, I'm sure he will. He's a very, very good coach. But they're biting the bullet now. Right? The Lions talks about one of the NFL's best teams over the last 2 years took body blows to both their coaching staff and offensive line. Dajani wrote, Detroit lost both its offensive and defensive coordinators this offseason, and both leaders were incredibly important when it comes to the team's recent rise, Dajani wrote. Goff did lose 2 important offensive linemen in right guard Kevin Zeitler, who had himself he's like 800 years old, but he had himself another fine season. Of course, the Giants had Kevin Zeitler, and after they left, Kevin, we're looking for a guard for 342 years, right? We had Kevin Zeitler. He had a nice year. Well, because Gettleman screwed up the salary cap so bad, of course, we had to let Kevin Zeitler go. And we let him go, whatever it was, 5-6 years. And every year he keeps having another good year. And we keep in search of a right guard. Well, we had Kevin Zeitler there. So they lost Zeitler. And, of course, Frank Ragnow retired, their center. So one of the best offensive lines just got weaker. The Giants head into Detroit in week 12. With one of the most feared. Now, this, hopefully, if we're healthy, there you go, good boy, right? So the Giants head into week 12, if we're healthy, right, with one of the most feared pass rushing units in the league. So they just got weaker up the middle, right? Their center retired and their guard retired. So that's a huge plus for Sexy Dexy, right? So something to keep an eye out for sure, right? Then there's the Saints. So, the thing was with the Saints is that, obviously, they got weaker, obviously, but, they were never going to be like, Super Bowl contenders this year. And of course, and then Carr retired. Shame because, things happen, right? But shame. But they were never going to be. Oh, look out for the Saints this year. They might hit the Super Bowl. No. So they were always going to be one of the weaker opponents on the Giants. Now, just because they they got weaker, it doesn't mean, oh, the Giants, we're winning. No, they're going, you still got to play the game. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. Saints haven't made the playoffs since 2020, and things don't look any better heading into 2025. Derek Carr's unexpected retirement caught them off guard, and their answer, drafting 25-year-old Tyler Shuck. So, didn't exactly move the needle, though it did. As Dajani put it, even if the Saints wanted to add another quarterback, who would that be at this point? The Saints entered 2025 with the worst odds in the NFC South and are tied with Cleveland for the best odds to finish with the fewest wins in football. So, the thing is, at least for the Saints, right? I mean, with the Saints anyway, I mean, this could be a godsend for them. Really, could be a godsend because what? Next season's draft's supposed to be the money draft, the QB draft, right? Now, the Browns just drafted 312 quarterbacks in this past draft. So, right, they may not necessarily be, jonesing for a quarterback. They might. But I mean, if the Saints wind up with 3 wins, whatever, they'll be prime position to draft a quarterback. So this Derek Carr retirement could be one. It's a shame. You never want to see anybody get hurt. Doesn't matter. It's going to happen. It's a physical, violent game. Guys are going to get injured. Guys are going to have to retire due to injury. It's a shame, but that's the way it is. But it could be one of the greatest things that ever happened for the Saints. Because, I mean, they could be just beautiful position to take a quarterback, right? Let's see. So the Giants will see the Saints in week 5. That's 3 teams, 2 of them recent playoff successes and 1 in steady decline. So entering the season with instability, it doesn't all of a sudden mean the G-men have a free pass to the post. Oh, let's not even talk about that. But when the schedule was first announced, games against the Lions and the 49ers, it's like, what did we do wrong, Look like guaranteed losses. Now, not so much. Well, hey, anything's possible. Anything's possible. New York still has to deal with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, 2 matchups against the Eagles and the Commanders, and a potentially nasty trip to Dallas in week 2. But with a league built on parity, opportunity can come from anywhere at any time. For Big Blue, it might come from 3 teams who already look shakier than advertised. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Have to wait and see. What's up, Giants and Eagles will have the best defensive. That's quite possible. I mean, the Eagles. I mean, their defense was just phenomenal last year. I mean, and their first round selection this year is going to. I mean, they let Slay go, but I mean, they're gonna have a fine defense this year too. Absolutely, that linebacker they drafted from Bama. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna be tough. Their thing is because with them, it's like their defense is tough, their offense is tough. They got probably possibly the best offensive line in football. Man. Saquon's there. Their offensive weapons with Smith and Brown. I mean, it'll be tough to beat. Really, really tough to beat. So, but I mean, the Giants. You can only do so much in an offseason. And, at least hopefully we're trying to, do what we can. We're building up our front wall. Maybe our pass rush can get to Hurts, but we need also to be able to stop the run too. So hopefully we did that this year. But we'll wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Now, Tiki says Shane is trying for some old school Giants. Now, Tiki would know. Right? Good old Tiki Barber said New York trying to establish old school Giants identity. Barber thinks Joe Shane and Dable are learning into the way the best Giants teams of old were built. Now, of course, in '86 and '90. A lot. We had Bavaro, but there was no phenomenal wide receivers. I mean, the guy. I love them all. The guys we had, but there was nobody who was like, oh, yeah, we had Bavaro, we had Jerry Rice, we had this guy, we had Michael we had, it was, rock 'em, sock 'em, grind it out, right? Joe Morris was the main man in '86. Same thing was in with Hampton in '90. He was the man. Of course, then he got injured in the playoff game, and we had to put OJ in there, and then OJ, carried the rest of the way. But, we were a running team, But, of course, we had the defense, So Tiki says, so after a pair of wayward seasons, former New York Giants great Tiki Barber believes the team is en route to forming old school Giants identity. He was a guest on the Go Long TD podcast with Tyler Dunn. Barber spoke at length recently about his frustrations with the team he said had become unwatchable. How true it is, yep, and how this offseason's course correction has him feeling better about the team's outlook. I see what they're attempting to do identity-wise, and it starts old school. We're going to run the football. We're going to take some shots because that's what Wilson, right, does very, very well. Now, Wilson doesn't have a cannon of an arm, so if a guy's running across him route or whatever, and he's got to gun it in there like 30, 40 yards down, if that's not him. He has maybe a touch on or something like that, but he takes the deep shot, take that deep shot down the field, right? And hopefully with Cam, Scatterboo, and Tyrone Tracy, if we can get the offensive line, stay healthy and all that, certainly look for us to run the ball quite a bit. Right? We're going to run the football, we're going to take some shots, and we're going to play great frickin' defense. Right? Barber told Dunn. It feels old school Giants in a way, and I kind of love that. I said, because you even go back, as I said, you go back to like 86 and 90. So artificial intelligence. Parcells like to control the ball, right? No turnovers, right? The 1990 team, I think, was one of the first, if not the first or so, whatever team to actually have fewer turnovers than games played. I forgot what it was. I don't know if they had 15 turnovers in 16 games or something like that. They had threw hardly any interceptions, right? They ran the ball a lot, and they had great defense. And their defense in 90 even gave up fewer points than their 86 team did. Their 90 defense was really, really good. Really. I mean, they went into San Francisco and they gave up a grand total of 20 points in 2 games in 1990. They lost the Monday night game 7-3, and then they won the championship game 15-13. So so that defense was just unbelievable. Really. But I mean, the way the Giants are building this defense, right? I mean, you should start looking around, right? We got Bernsey for at least another 3 years, right? We picked up Kayvon's 5th-year option, right? So we got him for this year, and we got him for next year. Hopefully we pick up Micah McFadden. Hopefully we extend him because it won't cost us. He's not going to get $10-15 million a year. So hopefully, we draft him, right? You develop him and you keep him, right? Hopefully we keep the guy, right? It'd be fantastic. But, we got Sexy Dexy for a couple more years. We just drafted Alexander. We got Golston, right? I said we got Abdul Carter for probably quite possibly 5 years, right? And then you look at the secondary, young, and we have everybody for just about maybe 3 years, right? Depends on if we pick up Banks' 5th-year option or not. But we got Banks for at least 2 more years. If we pick up his 5th-year option, we got him for 3 more years, right? We got Phillips in the slot for 3 more years. We got Adebo for 3 years. We got Holland for 3 years. We got Newman for 3 more years. Maybe we pick up Flott, maybe re-sign him, maybe be some good depth, right? But I mean, so we got this defense for at least a couple more years. And, you wind up adding maybe next year in free agency or in the draft, you add another good stud or so. I mean, this defense could really, really be nice. Really be nice. Barber said that after going 9-25, the last two seasons after winning a playoff game in his first year of the Shane Dable regime, it was clear that the Giants had to establish what kind of football team they were going to be. Barber said the overachieving Giants in 2022 knew what they were. It was coaching that got them to that point, and so we knew that we were going to play games tight and hope that one of their stars, whether it was Julian Love, whether it was Saquon, whether it was Daniel Jones, whoever, was going to make a play in the fourth quarter and get them a victory, Barber said. And it worked for them. They got to the postseason. They beat the Vikings. Dave won Coach of the Year. It was a great stepping stone. The problem is the plan fell apart in the subsequent 2 years, big time. A lot of it was because of injuries. A lot of that was because of injuries. Maybe some of it was Dave's overextending himself and taking over play calling duties from Kafka. And so they lost themselves in those 2 years, and it became really unwatchable. It was just disgusting. I called a couple of those games, and it was just like, what am I even looking at right now? Before bringing Shane back as GM and Dable as head coach after an embarrassing 3-14 season, owner John Mara wanted to hear that their plan for fixing the mess the team had become. He liked what he heard enough to give them a fourth season. Dable admitted that being tougher was part of the plan. Toughness all the way through the draft was something that we have talked about, both mental and physical, the coach said following the draft. I think you always add that element to your team in both areas. Mentally, the challenges that go with playing professional football and playing in New York, quite frankly, and toughness on the field. I think we did that in free agency, and we did that in the draft. It's something that we covet. I thought we did a good job of acquiring players that demonstrate both of those things. The best Giants teams have always been built on top-notch defense. Yep. Physical and mental toughness and opportunistic play, making them from all three areas of the team, offense, defense, and special teams. That is, the Giants with their defense, obviously, in 86 and 90 were just off the charts. The 7 team, right, and especially the 11 team, they really came together, really gelled well in the playoffs. They really, we had some good players, but they really gelled well in the playoffs. Barber sees old school Giants football in the approach. He said, I think this offseason we have to get back to a plan and create an identity. And so much of that starts on the defensive side of the ball. And you saw it right in free agency, bringing in Javon Holland, and maybe more importantly, Paulson Adebo, who is a big corner, right? So now we have a nice young secondary, right? We got a lot of talent there. We know that it's going to be aggressive up front. Obviously, Sexy Dexy is back, and then there's Darius Alexander. I'm excited to see him. All those guys they brought in, it's going to be about stuff in the front. You draft Abdul Carter, you have Kayvon, and obviously you have Bernsey. And so now maybe you can get into that race car package, that NASCAR package, right? Wouldn't it be great? I mean, sometimes you're like during the game when you have a Carter on the field, you got Lawrence on the field, you got Burns, and you got Kayvon on the field all at one time. Wow. You just hike the ball, just let them go, right? Remember that from the Giants in the mid-2000 years when they had those 3D ends on the defensive line all at the same time on rushing situations. So I think it's to create a tough, versatile defense and limit offensive possessions for the other team. And then let's go make some big plays on the other side. It's why you got Malik Neighbors a year ago. It's why you bring in Russell Wilson. As odd as a signing that might seem, the one thing that Russ has done consistently over his entire career, even if some of the things he says are corny on the football field, he makes big plays. He has that nice deep ball, right? You see it every single year. Now he may not be as consistent and mobile as he used to be, but he makes big plays and he's here to win games for them. So I see what they're attempting to do identity-wise, and it starts old school. We're going to run the football, we're going to take some shots, and we're going to play great freaking defense. So that is from, what was that there? That is from Ed Valentine. Big Blue View. Ed Valentine. So Got to agree with him there. I said, we'll just slowly, one of the nice things about going through a horrible, unbelievable, pathetic season as last year is that, as horrible as that was, we possibly got rewarded with maybe the best guy in the draft, right? Abdul Carter. So, and just to add him to that defense that we got, right? As I said, we Holland and Adebo. The defense really could be nice. Really could be nice. So hopefully, we limited the damage. Hopefully, we won't get run on like we did the past couple of years because that's tough to watch. It's embarrassing when another team can almost pretty much at will run up and down the field on you. That's really, really embarrassing. Now, you never sure like with this here with Aaron Rodgers. He never would have played for the Giants. I don't know. Because when free agency kind of started, there were reports. Once again, they were just reports, right? That some of his representatives or his agent or whatever kind of reached out to the Giants, right, to see if they were interested. If he never wanted to play for him, I don't know why anybody would reach out to the Giants to see if they were interested in him, or maybe it's always easy to say something after you sign with another team. Oh no, it's the Steelers. That was it. Steelers, baby. That's where I always wanted to be. This is it. Those other team now. No, kidding me? So it's always after the fact. It's always easy to say that, but apparently, Aaron Rodgers was never going to play for the New York Football Giants. He would have chosen retirement over playing for the Giants. Man, ain't that right? Ain't that a kick in the cojones, huh? As the 2024 NFL season wound down and it became clear that future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers would not remain with the Jets, speculation began over where he would go next. There were plenty of suitors, of course, including the New York Giants. At least that's what we were led to believe. Now it seems Rodgers was never going to sign with the Giants, preferring retirement. Despite his free agent discussions with the Giants, I don't know why. If you never ever had an attention, or unless you went into the discussions maybe with the Giants and what he's hearing, it's like, yeah, no, I'm good, man. No thanks. Maybe that's what turned him off. I don't know. And he did praise. One thing he did. I can't remember what show he was on or whatever. But they were talking to him, and they asked him a question, and it was in the off season, and I can't remember. They asked him a question, and he just kind of, out of the blue, he said, "Yeah, I had a great conversation with Brian Dable." He said he has a beautiful football mind. So apparently they talked for a little while. Aaron Rodgers told Steelers media today that he was going to be, it was either in Pittsburgh or not play at all. That is exactly what Rodgers is supposed to say. That's right. When asked about choosing his destination. Right? Remember Wink Martindale? Right, when he was with the Giants, he said, "Yeah, no, man, I'm serious. This is not just the stop. This is the destination. The Giants, right? Yeah, yeah, okay. Can't remember who would Judge, the defensive coordinator. Can't remember what his name was right off the top of my head, but." He said, they asked him, it was the defensive coordinator, they asked him, and he's like, no, Giants is my dream job. Giants, And then after there was the racial thing happened where the Giants because they didn't hire that one coach. The guy was calling the Giants racist. So then the Giants defensive coordinator wound up leaving, and he went to the Vegas Raiders. So apparently, I guess the Giants weren't his dream job after all. So it's always convenient kind of thing to say at the time, right? So you always want to. Usually guys wind up saying what they're supposed to say, right? So when he winds up signing with Pittsburgh, oh no, I always wanted to be here. This is it, baby. This is. One thing Aaron Rodgers does, though, is he can shoot his mouth off, and sometimes he, things he says on these shows that he talks to and all that stuff. So sometimes it gets to be a little bit of a sideshow. So Tomlin's going to have to deal with that in Pittsburgh. They got themselves a very good quarterback. It's not, he did throw a lot of touchdown passes last year. But he can be a little bit of a sideshow. So now Rodgers said exactly what he's supposed to say when asked about his choosing his destination. It's not becoming of a player to suggest that they might have gone elsewhere after just joining a new team. Yeah, and it certainly doesn't bring your teammates to your cause. Rodgers is supposed to say that it was always going to be Pittsburgh, despite having had conversations with multiple teams, including the Giants. This isn't earth-shattering news, and even though it's something he is supposed to say, it doesn't take the sting out of his meaning. The Giants would have a chip on their shoulder after this comment, and they should want to prove Rodgers wrong. But let's be real here. Rodgers was never a fit for the Giants. Absolutely not. Now, I'm glad. I'm really glad. The Giants are in rebuild, and they placed Jackson Dart in the most opportunistic position they can. Rodgers would have been one and done if he even makes it a full season without getting injured. Not only do the Giants have Russell Wilson to start while Dart learns the ropes, but Jameson Winston is in the wings too. So Rodgers' comment on retiring before playing anywhere but Pittsburgh is a moot point. The Giants have moved on, and so has Rodgers. Yeah, and plus I said, he made the whole season anyway, right? Because we got Dart. So, and I said, to bring him in, I would much rather have Russell Wilson in here, because Russell Wilson is more of a professional. I mean, not that Rodgers, but I mean, Rodgers, just his talk and some stuff he says, just, So I think I like Wilson in there better. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Rodgers, still sling the ball. He'll throw some touchdown passes and all and everything, but he was never going to take us to a Super Bowl, and he was pretty much just one and done. So, but anyway, he's in Pittsburgh, and we don't have to worry about him, which is a good thing. Now, it was interesting. I guess I don't know why they went back to 2016, unless it was in particular. It can't even be the last time that the Giants went to a playoff, because they went to the playoffs in 2022. So the Giants' skill player positions, which ones are better, 2016 or 2025? I guess maybe we're going back 10 seasons. I guess maybe that's what it is. Right. Now, the one thing is want to preface this before I start reading this, is that, the Giants in 2016, a couple of their weak spots, right, in the 2016 team, as I read this article, was tight end and running back. Well, the next two drafts, they took care of that, right? Evan Ingram could be a fantastic tight end. He really, really can. He didn't always do that wonderful with the Giants, right? A lot of times, whatever it was, he'd turn around, put his hands up, right? The ball could zip to him, put his hands up, the ball right through his hands, right into a linebacker standing behind him. Interception, right? I mean, how many times did we see him dropping the ball? But there was times, he would make some great catches. I remember, I think it was Daniel Jones's, I think it was the first game he got in or started. It was against Tampa Bay. I remember he hit Evan Ingram across the middle. Ingram got down to the sideline and just took off, and nobody caught him. He scored a long touchdown. So, Evan Ingram, as we saw with Jacksonville, He had over 100 receptions one year, right? Now, Peterson, way his offenses are, when he was in Jacksonville, he always seemed to emphasize the tight end. So there was no super big, shock that Ingram had some really good years there. But, they did it. The 2016 team did address their couple weaknesses, right? In the following drafts, couple drafts, they did, obviously. Now let's not forget, that one year, right? We had, the three top, right, players to me of all time, not number wise, of course, but we had Eli, right, the greatest quarterback the Giants have ever had. We've had Saquon Barkley, not number wise, but you can see what he's capable of doing. So we had the best running back. I mean, I got to give him a little bit of a nod over Tiki, a little bit. And we had OBJ. Now I got to give OBJ a little bit of a nod over like Amani Toomer, whatever. Amani's got the numbers, but Amani did it over a long period of time. OBJ could just obviously take a slant pass or something like that and just take it all the way. I mean, he's just phenomenal. So we had that one year, right? We had those three greatest, of course, Eli was at the end of his career, right? Saquon was a rookie. And then just after that, OBJ was in the era we just started getting injured left and right, right? But we did have some, phenomenal players there. And I said, even throw Evan Ingram in there too, right? He's not upper echelon of tight ends, but he was a mismatch. All right, so I got this article here. This is from SI.com. Evan Orris, I'm going to say. Giants skill position players, 2016 versus 2025. Are the current Giants skill position players better or worse than their 2016 predecessors? So I guess we're going back 10 years in time, I guess. So before general manager Joe Shane and head coach Brian Daboll took control of the Giants and led the team to the playoffs, the team had endured a 6-year playoff drought. Since 2016, the roster has undergone a complete overhaul as some legendary names have departed from the Giants roster. The team has no players remaining from that roster. Nope. But that's not the point of this exercise. An Instagram graphic by Pickenham laid out the Giants' skill position players from 2016 and 2025 squad. Which group was better? So now what they got, the 2016 team, right? They got Eli Manning, running back Rashad Jennings. Then they have Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, and Will Tye as their tight end. This year they got Jackson Dart, obviously. Jackson Dart. We put Russell Wilson in there, but they got Tyrone Tracy Jr., Malik Neighbors, Darius Slate, Wandale Robinson, and Theo Johnson. So which team is better? Well, the quarterback. Of course, they go with the 2016 Eli Manning. This is almost unfair considering the Giants still had Eli Manning on their roster in 2016, a quarterback who had only begun to enter the downward slide of his career. In terms of the choices, Manning trumps rookie Jackson Dart, who is yet to take a snap in the NFL. And even, and he had even the choice been Russell Wilson, that might have been the discussion more interesting. We would have still picked Manning only because Wilson, while still a very good player who upgraded the quarterback room from where it was a year ago, is now on the third team in as many years, which is true. Then they go to the running back position, and they picked Tyrone Tracy Jr. And I'll even throw Cam Scatterboo in there as well, too, right? So they got Tyrone Tracy Jr. Rashad Jennings was the lead back for the Giants in 2016, his third with the team. In his first 2 seasons, Jennings amassed 1,500 yards and 7 touchdowns. He recorded his lowest rushing output since joining the team with 593 yards and 3 touchdowns and averaged 3.3 yards a carry, while appearing in just 13 games due to injury. The 2016 would mark his last season with the Giants and his last in the league. On the other hand, Tyrone Tracy Jr. was one of the bright spots for the Giants offense this past season, amassing over 1,000 scrimmage yards and 6 total touchdowns in his rookie season. And he didn't even start, right, until after weeks 4 or 5? Right? And behind a depleted offensive line, Tracy averaged 4.4 yards per carry and ranked third amongst rookies in rushing yards. He should be the Giants' lead back heading into next season and is already more productive than Jennings ever was during his stint in New York. Then they go to receiver number 1. So now basically what they're doing is they're going up OBJ versus Malik Neighbors. And they go to OBJ. 2 LSU products, right? LSU products lead both Giants receiving groups. The first was OBJ, who was selected in the first round, number 12 of the 2014 draft, and the other was Malik Neighbors, drafted number 6 in the 2024 draft. 10 years apart, right? 2014 and 2024. But Beckham was a fan favorite throughout his first 2 seasons. That was among the league's top receivers in 2016. He finished third in the league in receptions with 101 yards, 1,367, and fifth in the league in receiving touchdowns with 10. Neighbors had similar success in his rookie season despite playing quarterback inconsistency. So imagine if Neighbors had, right, and plus the Neighbors missed a couple games as well too. But imagine the Neighbors had Eli throwing the ball to him. Neighbors had 1,204 yards and 7 touchdowns on 108 catches, the most receptions in a single season in Giants franchise history. Neighbors had the better single season as he appeared in 1 fewer game and generally similar statistics to Beckham. However, Neighbors has to replicate his production for another season before I feel comfortable taking him over Beckham, who ranks 2nd in receiving yards and 4th in receptions in Giants history. Now they go to receiver number 2, right? That would be they took Shep. They picked Shep, right? Darius Slayton has led the team in receiving yards 4 times in 6 seasons since entering the league in 2019. However, he caught just 39 receptions, 573 yards, and 2 touchdowns last season. He has also struggled with drops in his career with 28. So, meanwhile, Shepard had 17 drops through 6 seasons with the Giants. During his rookie year in 2016, Shepard burst onto the scene with 65 receptions for 653 yards and a career-high 8 touchdowns. Shepard is ahead of Slayton in every category in franchise history. He was also a more dependable receiver during his time in New York. Yes, and that was Shepard's rookie season, 2016. That was the 2nd year in a row where the Giants' 2nd-round pick was better than the 1st-round pick. 2015, we drafted Flowers, right? 2nd round, we took Landon Collins, much better than Flowers. 2016, we took Eli Apple in the 1st round, and we took Sterling Shepard in the 2nd round. So the 2nd-round pick, much better than the 1st-round pick. Victor Cruz was once the Giants' top receiver after the breakout 2011 season, in which Cruz helped the Giants win the Super Bowl by recording a touchdown in their victory. However, in 2016, he was returning from an ACL injury in 2014, which forced him to miss the entire 2015 season. By 2016, Cruz was a shell of his former self, recording just 39 receptions for 589 yards and 1 touchdown. 1 touchdown was in the first game of the season, which helped beat the Cowboys in Dallas. Like Cruz, Wan'Dale Robinson has missed games due to an ACL injury. Still, Robinson was able to return and gradually improve through his career. Oh, yeah. Last season, Robinson recorded career high in catches with 93, 699 yards, and 3 touchdowns. His 93 catches are the most in Giants history by a player who has not led the team in receptions since 2018. Robinson is one of the most underrated slot receivers in the league and forces missed tackles at a high rate. He led the Giants wideouts in missed tackles force with 20 and was 2nd in the league in contested catch rate at 58.6. Then they go to tight end. They go to Theo Johnson. They pick Theo Johnson, right? After a breakout in 2015 with 464 yards and 3 touchdowns, Will Tye saw his numbers go down across the board the following season. He recorded just 395 yards and 1 touchdown. Tye signed with the Jets in free agency the next season, marking the end of his Giants tenure. Theo Johnson, the Giants' 2024 5th-round selection, showed promise in his rookie season and has more upside than Ty Johnson. He caught just 29 passes for 331 yards and a touchdown in his rookie season, but then he got injured. Right? So the final thoughts. The 2025 skill group edged out the 2016 roster going 3-2. The edged out. No, I got in head-to-head matchups in total. You could argue the 2025 skill group is just as good as a whole. Cruz was toward the twilight of his career. The team was virtually zero production from tight ends, and the rushing game was virtually non-existent. Well, they got the number 2 wide receiver is better. They got the number 2 receiver. They had that Shepard is better than Slayton. And OBJ is better than Neighbors, and they had Eli Manning, right? But now what you want to do is you can also, it could be like a 3-3 kind of thing, because in 2025, right, they have Theo Johnson was better than Will Tye, right? Wando Robinson was better than Victor Cruz, and they got Tyrone Tracy was better than Rashad Jennings. So kind of like a 3-3 thing. Because if you take a tight end, a quarterback, and a running back, and 3 wide receivers, right, it's a 3-3. So Neighbors could be just as good as Beckham, if not better, when his career is done. Now, if he keeps his nose clean, if he stays injury free and all that stuff and everything, we're going to hopefully keep Neighbors around a lot longer than we kept Beckham around. This year's unit should also get a boost with better quarterback play under Russell Wilson. Overall, I'd pick the 2025 group. So, but as I said, let's not forget, right? The weaknesses of the, also that too. It was Rashad Jennings last season in the league, and Will Tye, after the season was over, went to the Jets, so the Giants had to replace those guys. But we wanted replacing them with, obviously in 2017, we got Evan Ingram, right? And then we had we took Saquon Barkley, the 2018 draft. So, so the Giants had a couple weaknesses on that offense, and they did address them in the upcoming couple drafts. Although they did lose Victor Cruz, because 2016 was his last year with the Giants, because he just was not. He tried to come back from the injuries. He injured his knee, and then he came back the next season, and he missed a boatload of the 2014, and you figure he'd come back. There's a lot of guys coming back from like ACLs and all that. Okay, so he missed the 2014, but 2010, I think was his rookie season. So you figure 2014, 2015, he's still got years to go, right? And then something happened with his freaking calf in 2015. And I'm like, so as I was looking online and whatever, stuff like that, you see Victor Cruz injured his calf or something with his calf, and say, okay, so he'll miss a little bit of maybe a couple weeks. It's the whole I'm like, are you kidding me? A calf? What would he do? But the whole freaking season. So he basically missed almost all of 2014, all of 2015. He finally came back in 2016, and his career was pretty much over. At 39 catches, he had 1 touchdown, and that was the game-winning reception. Eli hit him in the middle of the end zone, pretty much in Dallas. And I think we won. I think it was 2019. Now, I'm not sure if that's the last time we won in Dallas or not. It's not, but my goodness. Oh boy. All right, next we got. Oh, okay. This is cool. Now, this is something, certainly the Giants obviously want to do without question. Without question. You always want to have those joint practices. Now, I know past couple of years, I remember we had practices with the Lions, right? But this year, that's not going to be the case. Not going to be the case. But at least we are having them with the Jets. So we're having some type of joint practices, and it's always, it's under control, for the most part. It doesn't mean there won't be a brawl or two. but they are supposed to have some joint practices with the Jets before their week 2 preseason game, right? So Giants and the Jets will hold practices before week 2 of their preseason game, which is cool. All right. New York Jets new head coach, Aaron Glenn, revealed on Tuesday that the Jets and the Giants would hold a pair of joint practices before their August 16th preseason game. Looking forward to that, the Jets rookie head coach said. The Jets will hold, let's see here. Giants coach Brian Daboll said that at the start of OTAs that the Giants were working through organizing joint practices and would have an announcement in due time. Now, Daboll won't have to make an announcement. Joint practices with the Jets were already the only ones that made any sense. Because the Giants opened the preseason in Western New York against the Bills. While there are obviously relationships between the two staffs, right? The Bills have already committed to joint practices against the Lions. So, kind of wipes that out. Then the Giants will face the Patriots, right, in their third preseason game. But the Giants and the Patriots meet in week 13 of the regular season, so joint practices between the two teams were never realistic. So basically, pretty much, the Giants practiced once at the Jets facility at Florham Park last season, right? So pretty much, for the most part, the Giants and the Jets was the one that pretty much made the most sense. So we'll have to wait and see if it's going to be in Florham Park or exactly where it's going to wind up being. But, you always want to have that, and Daboll did say when he was speaking with the media that he's had a long, or, he's known Aaron Glenn for quite some time. He's had a good, relationship with him. Obviously, Glenn's coming from Detroit, right? But he's known him for quite some time. So, it's good. Dave's and Robert Saleh, last season, they seemed to know each other, got along pretty well. And then with Campbell too, right? And when we had the joint practices with the Lions. So it's always really, really good, to have some type of joint practices. That's really, really, controlled, under some type of control. But once again, certainly does not mean, right, that tempers won't be flaring, right? Which is a good thing, right? Yeah. The biggest thing is that what you hate to do is that I think it was who was it? I think it was Burnsy when they had their fight at the OTAs with Hudson and Kayvon were going at it. I think it was Illuminor and Burnsy were going at it, I think it was, or Burns. I think it was Burns and Hudson and Kayvon and Illuminor they were going at it. And then, of course, like a melee ensued. So it's not so much that. It's a bonding kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you got the offense and the defense, bond and all that and everything. But the thing is that the probably the worst thing, really nobody's going to get, unless you start throwing punches and you try to hit somebody upside the head and you want to break in your bones in your hand or something like that. But for the most part, not really anybody gets injured. But the biggest thing is you wind up missing time. You miss, if it takes 5 minutes out of, right? You got to separate them and all of that. And you're missing time. There's some plays that could be getting called. So that's a vital, and of course at the end, I'm not sure if it was at the end or if it was just after it happened, Daboll, had to talk to everybody. So once again, you're wasting time. So that's the biggest thing. It's not so much the fight or like guys that they're missing valuable time. And with these OTAs, you're only allowed so much. It's not like, well, we had a fight, so we're allowed another 10 minutes of no, you're not. Well, it's OTAs, but we can, we can do some jamming at the line. No, you can't. Because most guys may not say anything, right? Some guys might even like that or something like, some a little contact or something like that. But if you get one guy, all it takes is one guy to pick the phone up and call the NFL office. Yeah, how you doing? I don't know if you got to give his name or it can be, doesn't have to tell what his name is, but we've had contact here. Yeah, we got guys jamming the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. Oh, we got tackling going on there. Oh yeah, we ran screens and a couple of the offensive linemen cut the defensive lineman's legs out. Oh yeah, we got contact. That's so. There's only so much you're allowed to do, and you're only allowed so much time. Right? Because if you go an extra 10, 15 minutes, all it does is take one person, pick the phone up. As I said, they can be anonymous or whatever, but that's all it takes is one person. Now this here, this gets me juiced. I love it because once again, as you can see, right? Hey, I'm an old fart. I ain't got no hair, right? I love grass. I can't. There's the Eagles, right? More than anything, I just can't. But just right underneath the Eagles would be probably artificial turf. Once again, I'm an old fart, so please forgive me. I like dirt. I like mud, grass. The dome stadiums. Don't get me wrong, absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. Nice. I mean, the concession stands, the seats, everything. It really is pretty. I got to give you credit there, right? But I'm once again, right? There's no hair there. I'm an old-time fart. I like football. It's supposed to be outdoors, not in the dome stadium. If it's raining out, play in the rain. If it's snowing out, play in the snow, right? There's dirt. There's supposed to be mud. There's slop. There's grass. That's what I like. I love the grass, right? So when I first started watching, the Giants were playing at Yankee Stadium. And so I started watching in 70. So from 70 to 75, the 70, 71, 72, they played in Yankee Stadium. It was on grass. First two games of 73, they were in Yankee Stadium. It was on grass. The final 12 they played the final 5 home games of 73, they played in the Yale Bowl. It's on grass. The 7 home games in 74 was in Yale, on grass, the Yale Bowl. 75, they played in Shea Stadium, on grass. 76, Giant Stadium opened up, artificial turf. So I love grass, love dirt, right? After the game's over with, the guys dirt and mud and slop all over. That's football. That's for me anyway. But, I love seeing, grass. And I think it was from 2000 to 2000. I think it was 2. So I think it was 3 years. The Giants had grass. They tried to change over, but it just never worked out. What Mr. Mara was talking about a lot was what happened was, basically almost every week there's a game being played out. It was at the time, it was Giant Stadium. And in the Northeast, it was very difficult to keep grass in a good condition when every week there was a game being played on it, right? It's basically kind of like, one week maybe the Giants played on it, the next week the Jets would play on it, then the Giants. Or sometimes if you had the Giants playing at 1:00 on a Sunday, Monday night you got the Jets maybe playing on there, so it was very, very difficult. Possibly, what maybe, like what the Eagles do, or the maybe the Bears or the Packers, the teams in the North and all of that who actually play on grass, right? But there's only like one team that plays here. It's just the Eagles. It's just the Packers, right? Or the Commander. So I think he said kind of like somewhere along the line, if there's ever a point in time maybe where the Giants were, the only team in their stadium, and the Jets had their own stadium or something like that, they would probably put grass out there. Obviously, because it's a lot of the players. Now they might have stats and this and that and everything, but listen to the players. Players, at least most of them anyway, want to play on grass, right? So, but obviously MetLife Stadium, they got grass. Well, but that's because of the World Cup coming to town. So, this is from the Post, right? New York Post. NFLPA taking notice of grass field at MetLife Stadium for the World Cup. after safety concerns. The NFL Players Association took notice after video surfaced on X of a grass field being installed at MetLife Stadium ahead of the World Cup. The NFLPA had a telling response. Looks nice. Yes, it does. The official NFLPA account posted. And they put a hashtag, safer fields. Yes. Yes. Now you kind of wonder, is this one of the reasons why the Giants always seem to have a lot of injuries every year? Giants and Jets using artificial turf at MetLife Stadium has long been a point of contention among players due to the higher rate of injuries on the surface. And it's also kind of, right? I mean, when you're going out after a free agent, right? You're trying to sign a free agent or something like that. It takes two to tango, of course. You got to want them. They got to want to come here, right? Now, you could throw money at them, but if some of them, it's like, I'm in the twilight of my career, or you know what, I got bad knees, or you know what this, or you know what that. The Giants want to sign me. The Giants want to give me $10 million, but the Packers want to give me $9 million. Do I want to go where it's grass, or do I want to make an extra $1 million and play on turf and possibly ruin my knees? I'll take grass, right? It takes two to tango. Your best ability is your availability, right? If you get hurt, can't play, right? So that's always something to think about, right? Always something to think about. Giants and Jets, right, among point of contention due to a higher rate of injuries on the surface, and it reached a boiling point when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on the field. Right, remember the first game of the season? What was that, like 3 snaps in? Basically, their season was over with, right? But FIFA requires real grass to be used to comply with his regulations. I'm really, really happy. It's like, if you want the World Cup to come, you got to put in grass. I really like that. Now, the thing is that, there's going to be a lot of, a lot of World Cup games being played there. I mean, there's a few. I mean, they're not playing one World Cup and then 3 weeks later they're going to play another World Cup game, and then 3 weeks later they're going to play another. It's World Cup. So they can keep the grass okay for that, but no, not for football. No. Okay. So FIFA requires real grass to comply with its regulations, and MetLife Stadium is one of the venues for the Club World Cup, which is taking place across America. NFLPA Executive Director Lloyd Howell said last year that 92% of players preferred grass fields over turf. 92%. It's really basic, Howell said last year. It's not rocket scientist. No, it's not. 92% of our union wants grass. 92% wants grass. It's not rocket scientist. And I said, it makes you kind of wonder, I don't know if you'll never know. But if you go back over the past 10 years or so, whatever, and if you could ever find how many free agents out there, maybe the Giants went after, or they didn't go out, but who said, I will not go to New York. I will not play on that garbage. If I have to play, if I sign with the Rams and we have to play the Giants that one time in there that year, it is what it is. But I will not sign with the Giants or the Jets and play on that garbage for the whole season. Not happening. You kind of wonder how many, because it takes two to tango, how many free agents out there over the past whatever, right, have not want to play on this garbage. He said 92% of our union wants grass. That's compelling. I mean, that's not even close. The bottom line is it's unquestionable that our union wants to have a working condition where they play on grass. I couldn't agree more. Football is supposed to be played on grass, not artificial turf. Despite the willingness to install a grass field for other sports, Giants owner John Mara has maintained that it would not be sustainable for football, given that 2 teams play at the stadium, the weather and the large amount of events at the stadium. So there's a lot of events. There are a lot of events, right? And there's 2 teams that play there. I want to get to the point where the experts can tell us that late in the season we can have a safe, playable grass field. And when we get to that point, then maybe we'll make the switch, Maris said at last year's NFL owners meeting. We're not there yet. With the amount of events in our building, particularly during the football season, having 2 teams there, and how many times last year we had back-to-back games where it rained during the first game, I can't imagine what a grass field would have looked like on the second day. Jets owner Woody Johnson last year said he and Mara regularly discussed the idea of using grass fields for football. MetLife Stadium will also host the 2026 FIFA World Cup games, including the final. So for the final, that thing better look unbelievable for the final. Grass fields will be needed next summer as well. That type of grass for soccer is not fit for football, Mara said last year. It's a completely different type of surface. They're more concerned with how the ball bounces as opposed to anything else. It'll be a temporary grass field that goes down, and that's great in June and July. No matter how many times you change it out, and we tried this back in 99 to 2001 with the natural grass field, trays, and stuff. It was not a pretty sight in December and January. Again, I think we can get there someday. I just am not satisfied with that we're there yet. So I can understand that. I can certainly understand that. Because there were times it was really horrible, like late in the season. When they had the football, they said 99 to 2001. I think it was 2000 to 2002. Because in 2000. They went back to they had from 76 to 99. They had Giants on the side. Because in 75, when they went to Shea Stadium, they had that disco, they call it kind of tech, kind of looking NY, the big NY. When they went Shea Stadium, 76, they went to Giants Stadium. They put Giants on the side of the helmet. So from 76 to 99, they had Giants on the side of the helmet. 2000 is when they changed back to the small NY, and they went to grass at Giant Stadium. And I think it was 2000 to 2002, they had grass at Giant Stadium. And it just, I loved it. Loved it, man. End of the game, the Giants are the other team walking off because there's grass and dirt on them and stuff. Man, these guys play some football. Yeah, But that it toward the end of the season, it was just really, really tough. So, with 2 teams playing on there, and once again, there's concerts there and all kinds of other stuff going on. It's very, very difficult. So, hopefully someday, either one or 2 things. Either something along the line, they'll get it where they can get, some type of grass, because they're always making different types of grass and all kinds of things and everything. So maybe they can get a type of grass that they can put in there and it can hold up. Or if there's another point in time where just say like the Jets get their own stadium, right? And then you got the Jets at one stadium and the Giants or at MetLife Stadium or whatever the case might wind up being. Right, because you figure Giant Stadium was around from 25, well, it was 35 years. MetLife Stadium's been around 15 years. So who knows, maybe in another 20 years, maybe. Giants will start building another 20, 25 years. Maybe they'll start building another stadium. Maybe the Jets will get their own stadium. The Giants will get their own. And maybe, if you just have one football team playing in the stadium, maybe they can go back to grass. For an old fart like me, That would do my heart some well. But it is what it is. All right, then I saw this article here, how Abdul Carter opens up the Giants defense. Now, this is kind of in this article here, it kind of talks about how, like Shane Bowen, when he was with the Titans, he used a certain player, right? Maybe not quite as good as an Abdul Carter, but how he used like somebody who was like an off-ball linebacker in different positions and all that on the field. So that's the one thing that, without question, Mr. Bowen is under a lot of pressure. To me, I don't. Tough to say, but you got because I think Kafka. I think this is his last year. I think he's under contract. I think just this year. I think that's it. But you got Shane, you got Dable, and you got Bowen. When the season's over with, right? Dable and Shane, they're not tied at the hip anymore. They're their own entities. They're their own LLCs, right? The end of the season, whatever. We win 6 games, whatever, right? 6 games, 7, whatever. Mara's going to sit down. It's like, has Shane provided Dable with enough quality talent to win some football games? And, and are we building something here? We got the defense. Right? Are we building something here? And if the answer is yes, well, Shane might keep his job, even if we only win 6 games or whatever. And it's like, he's got to look at Dable. But also some of it with Dable, too, is it's like they finally got their quarterback. How much did Dart get in there? How much did he play? Did he play 3 games, 4 games? Well, he's going to need more time than that. Is he the real, because one of the worst things you want to do is then get rid of Shane and Dable or whatever and have Dart here and have a new coach and GM come in and they're like, I don't want Dart. He ain't my quarterback. You got to get another quarterback. I mean, you don't want that. So you got Shane, you got Dable, but I'll tell you what, Mr. Bowen, I'm not saying we got to be the top unit in the league. I'm not saying we got to be a top 10 unit, but I'll tell you, we're not close to 10. We're not 11, 12, maybe 13 the most. I'm sure there are other qualified candidates out there that can get a lot better production from this Giants defense. If we're like 17, 18, 19, 20 something, whatever. Bowen's under a lot of pressure this year. A lot of pressure. But so this article is from SI.com. This is from Brandon Olson. How the New York Giants first round pick Abdul Carter opens the defense. Abdul Carter is the key to the pass rush domination. Much of the debate surrounding the Giants' use of 3rd overall pick in the 2025 draft centered on how the team would utilize him on the field. With both Burns and Kayvon already under contract, Burns being a high-paid veteran and Kayvon the 5th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the question was valid. You got that right. Especially since we picked up his 5th-year option. So, we got Kayvon for 2 more years. And, hope he stays healthy and all this stuff. And all right, if you pick up his 5th-year option, that means quite possibly you might want to sign him long-term. Right? So that's about where the validity ends, though, as Carter's skill set answered the question and his talent justified the selection. Burns and Thibodeau will likely live on the edge, but that doesn't mean there's going to be an issue getting Carter on the field. Absolutely freaking not. And there's a picture. There's a cool picture. They got Burns, they got Abdul Carter, and they got Kayvon on one picture. Nice. Carter can play almost any spot in the front 7. That's just scary. The one thing is that, obviously with him, it's going to be, you put him anywhere. His thing is that, if, right, somebody gets his hands on him, like a guard or a test, something like that, what can he do to get out of that? Now, he's got the 5 Ds of dodgeball: dodge, dive, dip, duck, and dodge, right? The 5 Ds, going around a tackle. He's got the moves and all this stuff and everything. So sometimes it's the tackle's backing up, but it doesn't mean the tackle's going to be able to get his hands on him or something like that, But there is a point in time where they don't send him in off the edge. They send him in, up the middle, right? If somebody gets their hands on him and they latch on to him, is he going to be able to get out of there? I'll have to wait and see. Carter can play almost any spot on the front seven, and based on the first few weeks of OTAs, that's exactly how defensive coordinator Shane Bowen plans on using him. For the first 2 years of Carter's time at Penn State, he was an off-ball linebacker that would occasionally rotate down to the edge. That whole time as an off-ball linebacker, Carter was still rushing the passer and producing at an elite rate. But this is college, right? As they say in the pros, every week you're playing against Alabama in the pros, right? You're not playing Chuck E. Cheese Tech. You're not playing Ball State, right? So he had 28 pressures in 2023 on just 112 rush reps. That's freaking bananas. I mean, that's 1 out of every 4 pass rushing attempts. He had a pressure, 1 out of 4. That's freaking crazy. So basically, at that rate, if he was on the field for 448 pass snaps, which is possible, he would have what was it, 23? He'd have 112 pressures in the season. That's freaking bananas. That's freaking bananas. But right, you're thinking you got Kayvon over here, you got Sexy Dexy up the middle, right? I'm dying to see what Goldston can do. Dying to see what Alexander can do, right? And you got Burns is just a freaking maniac. That guy is unbelievable too. And you put Carter in there too. Woo, whew, man. Let's see. He registered a pressure rate of 25% on his pass rushes, which is just crazy, right? 2024 season was the first time Carter lined up as a full-time edge rusher, occasionally rotating to an off-ball position, and he was the focal point of the defense. No kidding, right? Absolutely. Carter would register 66 pressures in 2024, the second most for any player in college football, and was just 2 pressures behind the leader, even with Carter having 56 fewer rush opportunities. So come on. If he had 56 more rush opportunities, we definitely would have had more than just 2 pressures. So he would have been the leader in college football. So it's just crazy. Well, the question of how would the Giants use Carter was a valid one, very valid one. The answer is simple. He can do it all, right? So as I said, one of the things, obviously, you got to be honest here. Those last 2 seasons were brutal. 6 wins, and it wasn't so much the 6 wins. It came the year before that we were 9-7-1, and you like to build on that, right? So at least 9-7. Can we get to 10 wins or something? Nope, down to 6, and then it was like we went from 6 down to 3. I mean, just brutal. But what we did do, right? I mean, I don't know of anybody out there. Well, I apologize. There will be some Giant fans out there. I do apologize. Who complain about the Malik Neighbors pick because we could have taken a quarterback. So we could have took Penix. We could have took McCarthy. We could have took yeah. So there are. I've seen that. So I've seen people out there complaining that we instead of taking Malik, we could have took a quarterback. I've seen that. But for the most part, not many people are going to complain about the Malik Neighbors. I mean, the dude is just freaking bananas. Guy's bananas, right? So that was our little reward after our 2023 season. Then our little reward after the 2024 season is hopefully Abdul Carter. Just kind of the way it was. Now, I'm not saying he's the same or he's going to be as good or better, But after the 1980 season, well, actually from 1964 to 1980, where the Giants didn't make the playoffs at all, our little reward was in 1981. We got ourselves Lawrence Taylor. It stinks having a horrible season, obviously, but it's nice to have a reward in the draft. But you have to make those rewards in the draft. They have to pay off. It's like, you can't have a crappy season, right? In 2014, right? And in 2015, you get pick 9 in the draft and you take Eric Flowers. And you can't have a crappy 2015 season, and then the 2016 draft, you take Eli Apple with the number 10 pick, right? What we did with, Kayvon, would I like Kayvon at pick number 5? Would I like him to be a little more productive? Yeah, absolutely. But to me, is he a bust? No. Taking the number 7 pick, and you got Evan Neal, and it's like, I don't know, can the guy play? I don't know. That's not good. Right? So we're going to see if he can play guard. But, we have been rewarded with Malik Nate, one guy on each side of the ball, with Carter, although he hasn't played a snap yet, but Malik and Carter, I think, and, we have ourselves a very nice defense. For Bowen, this wouldn't be the first time he has an edge rusher that lines up all over the formation as a defensive coordinator. In 2021 and 2023, with the Titans, Bowen had edge rusher Harold Landry take snaps as an off-ball linebacker, slot corner, and even deep safety. Wow. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine Carter as a free safety? This pass rush with Carter thrown into the fold is not about Burns, Kayvon, and Carter cannibalizing each other for snaps. It's about finding ways to utilize all 3 of them to pressure the quarterback. Absolutely. I bet you Wink would have a freaking field day with these guys. With Wink blitzing different guys and dropping guys into coverage. Wink would probably have a field day with these guys. All this is also without mentioning Dexter Lawrence as well as rookie 3rd-round pick Darius Alexander on the interior. But let's not forget about Golston, too. Right? Giants have already experimented in practice with putting the 3 edge rushers on the field at the same time, with Burns and Kayvon on the edge and having Carter line up as a 4-eye. Right? Crazy. Now, there is a video here that they've shown where Wilson's dropping back. He gets the pass. He drops back. And within 2 seconds, you got, I think it was Kayvon. I think it's Burns and Abdul. There's 3 guys right in his face. Burns, Carter, and Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon down on the same defensive line is going to be straight terrifying. Yeah. So, and the beautiful thing about that is that you don't know, right, which way they're going to come, right? This pass rush unit has the potential to be the best overall in 2025. And the way to get there is by putting the triple threat of Burns, Kayvon, and Carter in the best position to succeed at the same time. And I said that's going to be up to Bowen. He's got his work cut out for him. Right? I'm just dying to see who we add in the draft next season. If we take a 1st-round pick or a 2nd-round pick, right? On defense, where's it going to be? Who's it going to, do we add another pass rusher early on? Oh, and maybe another defensive lineman, right? We have Alexander, you had Dexter Lawrence, and then in the 2nd round, you draft another defensive lineman. Oh, nice. Because let's not forget, okay, you have to prepare, unfortunately. This is sexy. It's going to be a 7th season. Now, I'm not saying the guy's over the hill. I'm not saying this is his last year. But somewhere along, we've seen him with pretty much with the Godfather, Mr. Patterson, coming in here and helping him out. Dexter is just, taking off. Dexter is up here, right? But there's going to start being a time, unfortunately, sadly, much as this pains me to say it, where Dexter's going to start, right? And seventh season, right? Doesn't mean he can't play for a few more years. Certainly does not mean it. Certainly does. I mean, if he starts playing really well here, and if he can stay healthy, certainly doesn't mean he can't play for a few more years without question. But, we're going to want to start, preparing for that day, right? Get some depth at their defensive tackle. So maybe if Dexter goes into his 8th year or 9th year or whatever, and maybe bring his snaps down, right? We can have some good defensive linemen on there to take his place, who maybe may not be as good as him, but it won't be a big drop off. You don't want to have Dexter out there and then put me in there the next snap. It's like, it's basically having nobody on the field. So you got to start preparing somewhere along the line for the year with Sexy Dexy. Maybe isn't so much on the Giants, but where Sexy Dexy's not the best in his position. And, if he starts, coming down quite a bit. So, we're going to have to, unfortunately, sadly, prepare for that. All right, and then finally I seen this one here. I got to find it here. We got 312,000 tabs up. Here we go. Open up. Now, once again, things that got learned from the 2007 Giants. Now, in this article I'm going to read, it's a lot of it was after the collapse, shall we say, of the 2003 Giants, right? They had a lot of injuries that year. Well, in 2000, Fossil obviously took the Giants to the Super Bowl. Right? Of course, we got annihilated 842,000 to 7, but another story for another day. 2001, we had a bad year. I think we won 4 games. 2002, though, right? We did very, very well. We went back to the playoffs. Unfortunately, that year, I don't like talking about it. We were beating the 49ers 38-14 with about 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. And of course, we lost the game 39-38. Now, there's so many things that went wrong with that. The last play of the game where I think it was Seibert or someone, I can't remember who it was down the field, and he was an eligible wide receiver, and somebody pulled him down, and the refs didn't call it. Somebody. Shockey had a ball go through his hands in the end zone. If he caught that ball, the Giants would have been up 42-14. And that might have been too much for them to come back, whatever, but it was just, But then that was in 2002. 2003, we had a horrible season, a lot of injuries. Fossil got fired. In came Coughlin, right? But 2003 was horrible. 2024 was horrible. Right, 2004. They didn't fire the coach, but they kept the same coach. But new quarterback, right? Brought in a veteran to start. Drafted a rookie quarterback, hopefully to lead us for the future. Same thing here, right? We had a bad season last year. Bringing in a veteran instead of Kurt Warner, which was 2004. 2025, we got Russell Wilson, and we drafted a quarterback in the first round. Right, so things you can learn, right? From there was a lot of turnover from, but the one thing is a bit odd. I mean, you look at it, right? You really the Giants' offense last year was absolute. I could still smell it. It smells like SHI. You know what? I could still smell it. It just smells just horrible. But they kept almost the whole same team. It's like, yeah, they did. But this article here, this is from Tony Delgenio. Anthony Delgenio. He does a very good job. Very, 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 very intelligent. From Big Blue View. Lessons for the 2025 from the building of the 2007 Giants. Right? All right. I thought it was a good idea because there are some lessons to be learned in how the 2007 Super Bowl Giants team was built. There were no direct parallels between the stories of what happened then and what is happening now, but there are some similarities that are worth noting. Some. Let's see. Oh, so I went over there. I said the Giants 2000 went to the Super Bowl 2000. They dropped this. 2001. They were 7-9. They rebounded to 10-6 in 2002, and then they blew the wild card game. They were up 38-14 against the 49ers, and they lost 39-38. 2003, the Giants began 4-4, but injuries struck, and they lost their last 8 games to finish 4-12. Head coach Jim Fossil was fired. Ernie Corsi was not. The Giants team was not devoid of talent. It still had a bunch of guys. It only scored 243 points, the third worst in the NFL. On a defense, it had a stout defensive line, but yet it gave up 387 points, which is the fourth worst in the NFL. This was in 2003. People think that things changed when, of course, he swung the draft deal to get Eli Manning, but Eli was terrible when he finally got put on the field, started midway through his rookie season. The Giants finished 6-10 despite having Kurt Warner, who would later win his second Super Bowl at quarterback. Giants, as part of the deal for Eli, had given up their first and fifth round picks in 2005, and they had no seventh round pick either. It would look bleak for them to substantially improve through the draft. But, so in 2000, they had 4 picks in 2005. 4. That was it. And they had to try to start rebuilding this roster. But they didn't have a first round pick because they traded that in 2005. They traded that away to the Chargers so they can get Eli. But in the second round, they took Corey Webster. Third round, they took Justin Tuck. And then, of course, round 4, they took Brandon Jacobs. That's a 75% hit rate despite no first round pick. They also signed free agent Plaxico Burress, Antonio Pierce. My God, he was so good. And Sean O'Hara. Huge home runs. Those 6 guys right there, grand slams. With modest improvement from Manning, they made the playoffs in 2005. They went from 6-10, and in 2004, and in 2005 they went to the playoffs. Of course, they lost 23-0 in the wild card game to the Panthers. That was a horrible game to watch. But anyway, the Giants, they had they had a modest turnover of players. The players by 2005, half the offense had been together for at least 2 years. And by 2007, most of it had been together for at least 2 years, both skilled players in the offensive line. The defense, though, was being almost totally rebuilt in 2005, and even by 2007, had less veteran presence than the offense. That's surprising for a team that was carried at the time mostly by its defense. However, the defense had non-starters who played key roles, such as Tuck, R.W. McCours, and Webster. Then you go compare that to the evolution of the roster of the present Giants team from 2021, the last year of the Joe Judge regime. Oof, my God, what turnover was unbelievable. Defining starters in today's NFL is more difficult than it was 20 years ago with 11 personnel, 12 personnel, and 21 personnel configurations on offense at any given time. 4-3 and 3-4 defensive fronts, nickel, dime secondaries, and rotations within position groups. On top of that, we don't know yet who is going to start in 2025. So take these as approximations for which we should be on the field the most. What you can see, though, is that the Giants' offense has mostly completely been replaced over 4 years, with only Darius Slate and Andrew Thomas remaining. It's a combination of young players with a few veterans who are new and have only been on the Giants for a year. The defense is further along. About half of its players who now played together for at least a year or two, albeit under 2 very different defensive coordinators. Which is true. In other words, the present Giants team is not where the 2007 team was when it gathered at training camp. It's perhaps a bit closer to where the team was in 2005. Both the offense and defense have only 4 starters who have played together for multiple years. What the present does have, but the one thing let's not forget, right, is that this team here, hopefully coming up, right, we got Kayvon, right, we're going to have a Karake, we're going to have Micah McFadden, we're going to have Bernsey, we're going to have Dexter, we're going to have Banks, We're going to have Phillips, and we're going to have Newman. We're going to have eight players on defense that were there last year. So, right? Yeah. Then you look at the offense, right? You got the same running back, you got the same tight end, you got the same 3 wide receivers. You got Andrew Thomas, John Runyon Jr., John Michael Schmitz, right? So we have at least 8. I'm not sure who the right guard and the right tackle are. We have at least 8 guys on offense starting, right, who were starting last year. So we got a lot of the same continuity there. And I said the same thing. The next season, you're going to have a lot of the same guys on defense. Almost a whole, unless whoever we draft next year, we draft somebody early on. If he winds up being a star, you don't know. But we're going to have a lot of guys next season, especially on defense, who are playing this year too. So, what the present does have in common with the team from 20 years ago is apparent draft success. The 2024 draft looks, after one season, to have been a great success, with Malik Neighbors having become an instant star and perhaps 4 other stars emerging. You got Theo Johnson, right? You got Tyrone Tracy Jr., you got Newman, you got Phillips, and we got Malik Neighbors. We got 5, right? Likewise, every pick from the 2025 draft seems promising. It's taken 4 years to get to this point from the mess that was left by Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. That's a tougher task than a Corsi and newly hired head coach Tom Coughlin faced in 2004, when they had a team with some players who had started for a Super Bowl team only 4 years earlier. That team began its season with a Super Bowl winning quarterback who would eventually make the Hall of Fame as its starter, with a first-round replacement waiting in the wings. It had a 6-10 season. The present team will begin its season with a Super Bowl winning quarterback who may make the Hall of Fame as its starter, with a first-round replacement waiting in the wings. A 6-11 or 7-10 season will probably not surprise anyone, right? So 2004 we were 6-10. We just drafted Eli. This year we could be 6-11, 7-10. We just drafted a first-round pick with Jackson Dart. What the team that did win the Super Bowl had, in addition to its starter, was non-starters who did great things in key situations. Look at this list. Kevin Boss, longest play from scrimmage in the Super Bowl. Ahmad Bradshaw's 88-yard run as the snow began to seal the playoff clinching win in Buffalo. Dominic Hickson's 74-yard kickoff return as the Giants almost ruined the Patriots' perfect season in the last regular season game. McCourt's end zone interception of Tony Romo to clinch the divisional win in Dallas. Steve Smith, key 3rd and 12 reception to keep the winning Super Bowl drive alive. Derek Ward, 215-yard rushing game the next season to clinch home field in the playoffs. Now, our running backs were unbelievable. We had Derek Ward, Brandon Jacobs, Ahmad Bradshaw. Those 3 guys, freaking incredible. What a 3-headed monster we have. My goodness, were those guys good. Corey Webster's interception in overtime in Green Bay to basically get the Giants to the Super Bowl. Hats off to Lawrence Tynes. That didn't include special teams, but he was a pretty key player for 2 Super Bowl teams too. That's the question for the 2025 Giants, though. Do they now have players who will make big plays in important times to win games? The 2024 Giants were in the thick of it. Most of the games they lost, but barely did anyone make a big play. Nope. To seal the deal. No, they did not. Nope. That's right. Not the starters and not the key reserves. Talent-wise, the Giants roster may not be far off from that team from the 2005 team. Time will tell if they have players who step up when games are on the line. That's huge, right? Oh, hey, what's up, buddy? How's it going, pal? How you been? I watched the videos, but haven't. Sometimes I wind up going live at like 11:30 and stuff like that. So I do apologize. Hey, thanks for checking in, though, pal. Man, it's good. Good to see you. Unfortunately, I'm just about done, but man, it's good to see you, pal. Hey, if you're watching the videos, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. But that's one of the things is that there weren't a lot of close games last year. They lost. Right, I think they won 1, but they lost almost all of them. And it sometimes comes down to making a play, one play, whether it's on defense, you stopping another team's drive, or whether it's on offense, you make a play. I mean, it comes down to making a play, right? Sometimes it comes down to luck. Sometimes it comes down to making a play. Now, just before I leave, I'll give you one example. Sometimes it comes down to luck. Well, the luck, was when we played the Commanders. Commanders went to the championship game. They were very good, right? We could have beaten them both times, especially the first time we beat them. When luck comes in, we don't have a kicker. I mean, how many games end where the one team doesn't have a kicker? Not many. Well, that's what happened to the Giants that game, right? Well, we had the Scottish Hammer, but, he wasn't there. I think he tried the first extra point. He missed terribly. And after that, we didn't kick no field goals, went for 2-point conversions, and nothing. Just everything went wrong, right? So we didn't have a kicker. So we had no luck that game. But also in that game, too, it comes down to making a play, right? Was it fourth down or whatever it was? Whatever it was, the third or fourth. It was 4th and 8, 9, 10, whatever it was. Pass, Malik Neighbors on the sideline. Ball hits him right here. Drops it. Making a play. I'm not saying making a touchdown. I'm just catching a pass. Caught the pass. Now, if we got down to the 2-yard line and was 4th and 2, were we going to go for it? Or were we going to try to kick a 19-yard field? Maybe the Hammer would have been called in to kick a short field goal to tie the game. I don't know. Maybe we would have gone for the touchdown. Who knows? But it goes to just making a play. And I'm not saying going up there and snatching an Odell Beckham with 3 fingers, jumping 35 feet in the air, snatching and coming down with a touch. I'm not saying hand the ball off to somebody and the guy runs over 35 guys on his way in there. I'm saying right here, ball right here, hits him right here. He drops it. We just didn't have that last year. So I mean, of course, everything gets blamed on the coach. Dable, you suck. Well, you can draw stuff up, but guys don't. If we get injuries, we had a lot of injuries last year, and if guys don't make plays, right? That's a lot of it comes. They say that a lot of the coaches, and it's true. After all of this crap is all over, this, that, and a lot of times you can go back to the game. And you can pick out maybe like 5 plays, right? 5 plays, right? The 5 plays that caused this team to win, or the 5 plays that caused this team, right? And you change those 5 plays around, the other team wins. 5 the other way, the other, whatever. It comes down to just a few plays, right? All this preparing, all that stuff, but you don't know when the plays are. There's no, the football gods don't, shine a bright light down from heaven, and give you a sign. Oh, this is going to be the play right here. It's going to change the. You don't know. You have no idea. So you got to make a play. And last year, the 2024 Giants did not make any plays. All right, guys, been 1 hour and 53 minutes. Vinny G-Man, you guys, thank you so much for spending time with me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. So for whoever's going to spend any time watching me live, thank you. Or if anybody's going to spend any time watching the replay this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. And as always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo! Oh, yeah.